Let's get to Rick Bucher from Fox Sports 1. Bucher, look, I don't put all the blame on Doc Rivers for Joel Embiid getting hurt, right? It's not completely his fault. Pascal Siakam and a high elbow got him. Unluckiness got him, right? And, but what are you doing with Joel Embiid in the game when you're up more than 20 with 5 or so minutes to go? Like, what are we doing? And his explanation was, well, they had their starters in the game. Like, yeah, because they're getting blown out. They want to make it look decent. Like, this is, for a guy who was fighting off with conviction why his teams lost up 3-1, this one's hard to push back against.
Yeah, the problem that I have is that Doc always says that he holds himself accountable. That's one of his principles. And then just of late, the things that he said don't reflect that. I wouldn't have had a problem if he said, on second thought, I probably shouldn't have had him out there. I mean, if you're Doc Rivers and you have the amount of receipts, revenue, goodwill, and I know he's had to spend some of it. I know it's not as robust as it used to be, but every once in a while, just to say, hey, you know what, I should have done it different, would be more than acceptable. He has that license, and yet I can't remember the last time I've heard Doc say that without first giving us a laundry list of other things that happened. My other issue is when he says, that everybody's been doing it. This is the playoffs. It's different. It's like, not everybody has Joel Embiid. Not everybody has a guy that has a history of injury. Like, don't have him out there any more than you have to have him out there, and you're up by 29. So I would be perfectly okay with Doc, taking one for once. And the fact that he didn't, and the fact that he rewrote history when it came to all the 3-1s. I've known Doc since when he first wanted to get into coaching, and his agent at the time reached out to me because I was a Warriors beat writer. And he was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "I think he'd be a great follow-up to PJ Carlesimo. He's opposite personality." But somewhere along the line here, Doc he's always been treated with kid gloves by the media. And the second that he hasn't been, the second that he's been asked tough questions, he's suddenly playing this victim card, I hate to say it. And again, that's one of the principles. I think he's got 5 principles. One of them is life's not fair. Like, don't play the victim. I don't know that Doc is holding to his own words right now.
It's Doug Gottlieb Show here on Fox Sports Radio. Okay, let's get to what we saw yesterday. First, look, I understand that we're trying to not let somebody get hurt. We don't really want everybody says, back in the 80s. No, in the 80s, go back and watch.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff was dangerous. They're very lucky guys didn't get really badly hurt.
Sure.
But to be that cautious and to throw out Draymond Green felt a bit ridiculous to me.
I'm not with you at all on this one.
You're not?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
The flagrant one is automatic because he hit him in the head.
Right.
Trying to contest the shot. On the second part, he didn't need to grab his jersey and yank him down. And I know that people are looking at it and saying, well, he was actually breaking his fall. He was breaking his fall after he first grabbed the jersey. Draymond Green has, I believe, when you have somebody like a Nikola Jokic, where he can, there's a skill game involved there, and you just got to figure out, how do I take away, or how do I make this guy uncomfortable? How do I take away what he likes to do? Draymond Green is as good as anybody at figuring that out and has the wherewithal to do it. Brandon Clark is a different animal. Brandon Clark is he is going to be relentless. He's going to out-jump Draymond. He's going to outwork Draymond. He is that. I would dare say Brandon Clark may be a more difficult puzzle for Draymond Green to figure out than a Nikola Jokic. And what I saw was, and Draymond's become very good at this, he does little things that are intimidation factors that make you feel uncomfortable in a different way.
Yes.
And I don't believe he should be allowed to get away with it. So I had absolutely no problem with, you got a flagrant one because you hit him in the head, and then he's trying to go back up thinking the play's still going on, and you're going to yank his jersey. Look, is it dangerous that I think it would, like Brandon Clark was going to get injured? No, none of that. But if we really are trying to minimize the ability to take the skill out of the game and make it a game of trickery, then I believe this was sending a message. Like, Draymond, we're not going to let you get away with the extracurricular things to get an edge. And I would say for the most part, he's against Denver, he was allowed to do all those things. Again, not dangerous things, but if the league really is all about, hey, we're just going to make it a skill game, we're not going to let you use any kind of ancillary tricks to get an edge, then I don't have a problem with the decision that they made.
Okay. How big a win was that for Golden State, considering they didn't have Draymond most of the game?
Certainly, much bigger than had they lost. And it's not just that they didn't have Draymond, but Steph didn't shoot well and Clay didn't shoot particularly well, and they still won. Although Jordan Poole has demonstrated that if you don't game plan for him, as Steph told me the other day before they went to Memphis, if you don't game plan for Jordan at this point, he will torch you. And my only question for those that are already counting Memphis out, and there are plenty of people out there that are doing it, like this, if they can't win it with Draymond off the floor and Steph and Clay not shooting well, I just don't think this is the Denver Nuggets. I believe that the Memphis Grizzlies had Desmond Bane, who had his worst shooting night in the playoffs by far. Dylan Brooks was in foul trouble. He didn't shoot the ball well. They didn't rebound the way that they're capable of. And so I believe it's what Golden State needed to do, and they certainly have an advantage, obviously, when it comes to experience. But I don't put them quite in the same category as the Warriors teams that were going to the finals year after year after year. Steph said it, that in the way they closed out Denver, like they're relearning what they had then, largely because they had a lot of different pieces, and because Steph, Clay, and Dre are not quite the same players they were then. So do I give the edge to Golden State, especially now that they won Game 1? Yes, I do. But do I think it's still a series, and do I still think there's a way that Memphis could end up winning it? I think that as well.
Giannis looked like the best player on earth. Some of it is they have a full team. Some of it is they've been doing this for several years, right? Like, this has been a build. And some of it is, he's started to be able to make, if he makes jump shots, you're dead. And he has the body to take the pounding that Boston, gave KD fits on. How much for the rest of the series do we take away from Game 1?
I think we take away a ton, and I'm not surprised at all. I've seen this Giannis through the course of the year, and I felt like, and the only reason that I didn't vote for him MVP is because I felt, to your point, that he was building to this. Like, he was working on certain things, the mid-range, operating out of the pinch post or the mid post. Like, there were certain things that he was doing. I was like, he's adding to what he did in the finals last year. And you play him at 5, and he can shoot a 3 if necessary. He can hit the mid range, but he can also finish around the rim. He can Euro step any big that you put on him down there. Or he can bring him out into the deep water. He's learned how to utilize the pieces around him. And so I just look, and particularly in this matchup with Boston, I just think Giannis is in a place where you have to pay extra attention to him. You have to double him. And he's good enough now as a passer, and he has enough shooters around him with Bobby Portis and Grayson Allen and Drew Holiday and Pat Connaughton. I really think Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton and the overall depth of this Milwaukee team is so much better than last year. I think that's what everybody is has been missing on. They're deeper, and they have more pieces that Giannis can utilize. And Giannis is in a place now with his game where he's capable of utilizing them. And if you don't, then he's finishing over the top of you at the rim. And I just think that's a lethal combination.
You have the Dallas Mavericks going up against the Phoenix Suns. And look, I think Luka has most everyone convinced that if he's not the best player in the league when he's healthy, he's in any reasonable conversation. And when I say best player, I'm not just talking about regular season, or I'm talking about postseason as well, right? This guy can take over series. Yep. But can he beat the Suns?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's a great question. And what I really like, what I appreciate about the evolution of Luka is that for as much as he can dominate, he's finding ways to utilize and trust his teammates. And we've seen Kobe and any number of great players go through the same. I mean, I got to go all the way back to Hakeem Olajuwon. Great players who could get a lot done by themselves, but until they really trusted their teammates and made the decisions to, okay, I can get a shot here, I can make a shot here, but he's wide open, and that's a shot that he can make, so I'm going to trust him on this one. That's where I think he's evolved. The problem is, the Suns are so good, can be so good defensively, that I just don't, as much as Luka is able to utilize those pieces around him, I think the balance of talent that the Phoenix Suns have, the experience that they have, and let's face it, Luka won his first series. The Dallas Mavericks have won their first playoff series in the Luka era. It's hard to maintain a hunger to say we're not going to be satisfied unless we get to the conference finals or we get to the finals. I don't know that their appetite is that deep. I know it is with the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are not going to be satisfied with anything less than winning a championship this year. Anything less than that is going to be a disappointment. So I think just in that edge of who is hungrier, who has more to prove still to themselves, I'm going to give the edge to the Phoenix Suns, and I think that they've got the personnel to do it.
I tend to agree, but I'm fascinated to see if Luka can figure out a way to beat him.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm not saying that it could, again, it's a little bit like the Memphis Grizzlies, and I think that's why I'm just loving across the board all of these second-round series, because I just think
there's favorites, but you can see the underdog getting a win.
Yeah.
It feels like they'll be competitive. I do want to ask you, there's a story out that Utah, Rudy Gobert's him or me, and that's him or Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
That feels like then Rudy's gone, right? Isn't it?
Not if Donovan doesn't want to be there.
Right.
I mean,
he wants to go to the Knicks. Is the thought he wants to go to the Knicks? Could you get rid of both of them?
I've been hearing that I've been hearing that all year.
Yeah.
No, look, it's not that simple. I do believe it's a flawed concept in today's game. As good as Rudy Gobert is, like the Dallas Mavericks demonstrated, like we can play 5 out. Rudy is not enough of an agile threat offensively to balance the scales in terms of what you're going to be able to do to him in having to guard somebody on the perimeter. There are other bigs that, like DeAndre Ayton. Okay, like DeAndre Ayton is going to eat you up inside if you go small. So you have a chance of winning that matchup. With Rudy, there's a way, for as good as he is defensively. And then the other part is, like, even with Donovan, they're not athletic enough on the perimeter. This is one issue I will say. The TNT crew just took Quinn Snyder apart after they lost that series. And I thought it was unbelievably unfair because he's got an impossible situation. Okay, so you're saying, why do you got Gobert out there? They're going 5 out. You got to play small. Okay, you play small, they're not only hitting threes, they're driving to the rim at will because you don't have enough athleticism, you don't have enough one-on-one wing defenders to stop them. So the only thing you could do is have Gobert out there because he's got to protect Bogdanovich and Conley and even Donovan Mitchell. So I think it's a flawed concept, and if I were the Utah Jazz, honestly, I'd be starting from scratch. I would move both of them depending on what I can get. But in the short term, from everything that I've heard, you're probably moving Donovan Mitchell, so you might want to slow your roll on moving Rudy Gobert.
He's Rick Bucher. Follow him on social media. Check him out on Fox Sports 1. Bucher, you're the best. Enjoy the games. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.